Good morning, everyone. It's Dave Bergan, Assistant Superintendent, Madeira City Schools. It is Saturday morning, August 14th. We're reaching out with this video so that we can talk through the slides that were presented at our Board of Education meeting last week, but to also provide some very important updates that we've made since our board presentation in response to some of our local data, which we'll review here within these slides. So we're going to move a little quicker through some of these, which have not changed, so that we can spend a little more time on some of the areas that have changed. But for families that might be new to the district, or just as a good reminder, these are our guiding principles that we're going to use as we navigate this school year and as we navigated last year. Care and well-being of our students and staff is always priority and important. We're going to prioritize student learning and social and emotional health. We're going to ensure effective teaching and learning. And as always, we're going to make sure we're operating efficiently, effectively, and responsibly. These are the fundamental assumptions we carry into this school year. I think we all hoped that we would enter this school year and, quote, get back to normal. Unfortunately, as we'll show here in the data, we're in a similar situation this year as we were as we started last year. And so once again, we're going to need to be flexible and responsive with our plans. As we shared at the Board of Education meeting last Monday, it's extremely, extremely important for all parents, all students, all families in our community to understand that once again, we're in a spot where we will be making and navigating this school year in a position again where once again we'll need to be ready to make changes quickly and to be flexible together. We will, of course, follow all health and safety requirements given to us by Ohio Department of Health and our Hamilton County Public Health Department. And as always, our guidance and guidelines will be adjusted throughout the year. Students and parents and staff may need to be ready to adjust with minimal advance notice as a result of continued contact tracing or changing conditions that we're seeing within our schools. The district will continue to monitor our health status and make informed decisions based on our local data and lived experience from the 2021 school year. And we really can't state this enough. We are better together when we respect differences of opinions, but we show empathy for those who may become ill, and we promise to do our best amidst these difficult circumstances. Our kids, our students deserve the best possible school year that we can provide for them, regardless if as adults we may or may not agree at all times. Our kids deserve another great school year amidst these challenging and sometimes unpredictable times. So last year, just a quick reminder, together we did have an amazing school year where we were able to provide in-person learning 5 days a week for the majority of the school year, with the exception of those 2 weeks between November and December. We learned how to track our health data. I think all of us together learned a new vocabulary and became familiar with data and trends that, frankly, we just weren't concerned with in previous years. We conducted school within our classrooms and at home. We ate lunch together, played sports together. We shared our passion for music and the arts together, without evidence of school-wide spread. Together, we learned that the rewards of our students being together outweighed any potential health and social emotional concerns in staying apart. Together, we kept our promise, our My Madeira promise to ourselves, to be our neighbors and to be our friends together through these times. Wanted to provide this slide of data that we gathered last year. And so in red, you will see student quarantine numbers by month, and in blue, you'll see student positive cases by month. I will say, as the person who personally was involved with each one of these positive cases and these quarantines across the district, and as a former 7th grade math teacher, I believe in the power of graphs and data and numbers, but each one of these numbers represents a personal story and a personal experience for one of our students and for one of our families that honestly we just don't want to repeat this year. 352 students were quarantined in the month of January. We had a total of 814 close contact quarantines over the course of the year. In addition to that, we had 62 positive cases, 9 at the elementary school, 26 at the middle school, and 27 at the high school. Fortunately, we did not have any hospitalizations or evidence of classroom spread. But again, I can't overstate, and I think for all of you out there who may have a family member who may have been one of these numbers last year, you all know it was not an easy time. And these are calls and these are experiences that we want to minimize this year. And frankly, we just want to avoid as much as possible. I do think, though, together we were able to navigate this difficult year and create the best possible outcome for our kids. And there's a lot to be proud of here, but honestly, there's a lot of lessons learned that we'd rather not revisit if possible. Our local data monitoring, we talk about the importance of being responsive and flexible based on data. This is the data that we're looking at from a state and county region. We're looking at new cases per 100,000. We're looking at positivity rate of test performs, rate of spread, and vaccination rates, which is new this year. Within our zip code, we are looking specifically at 7-day moving average of daily cases, new cases per 100,000. And within our schools, obviously, we're going to be watching for positive cases, student and staff absences. And when we talk about behavior risk management, we're talking about what is the compliance of mask wearing within our buildings or appropriate behaviors that can help us keep our case numbers and our quarantines down. I wanted to share these 3 graphs with you. This is real-time data that we're looking at from our county as of this morning. So I shared these 3 graphs at the board meeting last Monday. These are updated with most recent data that I could get my hands on. In the upper left-hand corner is average daily cases. When we talk about numbers trending in the wrong direction, that orange line represents our average daily cases for this zip code, 45243 specifically. And when you look at that number and where that line is, and you trace back, the last time we were in this position was in November heading into December, which was some of the most difficult times that we faced during our school year. The other thing that I'll say is that our case rate has increased. It's doubled within the past week since our board meeting. And when we look back to last year, that doubling of cases occurred over a 2-week period of time, whereas this year it's occurred twice as fast and it's doubled within the span of a week. So our cases within our zip code are increasing, our cases within our county are increasing, and they're increasing at a rate, honestly, that gets us to the point where we were in November of last year and is increasing at a rate that honestly is faster than what we saw last year. Our graph up to the right here is vaccination status. So this represents number of vaccinations started and completed on a daily rate. We'll be keeping a close eye on that number as well. That's new for us this year. Another number that we are down here monitoring is our regional positivity rate. And this year it's broken down by age group. So this represents ages 5 through 17 test positivity rate. So if 100 tests are taken, what percentage of those are coming back COVID positive? Currently our number stands at 7.5% for our school age population. I will say overall as a county last year, we reached numbers as high as 16% positivity rate. So we're not at a positivity level which is quite as high as we were last year, but the numbers, as you can see, are increasing. Most of the summer we were down 2-3%. That number's crept up to 4 and 5%, and now we're up to 7.5%, specifically for school-age kids. That 7.5% represents a number that's higher than our general population. So we know that tests on positivity rates right now for our school-age kids are higher than what we've seen throughout the summer. And if you look at those dots, you can see that they're looking like they'll continue to trend in an upward direction. In addition to this countywide and zip code data, I will say over the course of this last week, I've talked to multiple families, and our principals have talked to some families as well, because it's extremely important if you have a family member or a student who has tested positive or will be quarantined for the start of the school year, please reach out to us and let us know. But we do have multiple cases throughout the district right now that represent all of our buildings. And so we know we have evidence of positive cases and quarantines within all of our buildings that will affect how our students and staff are starting this school year. So in addition to this regional and zip code data, when we look within our school community, even before we've started this school year, we do have evidence of cases across our community and across our buildings. As a result of those data indicators, which we indicated at the board meeting that we were going to continue to watch, we have made some changes. And so this is the important update we're making sure everyone's aware of as we start our school year. We have changed to require now all preschool through 6th grade students and staff required to wear a mask while at schools indoors. We're going to provide mask breaks like we did last year. And I do want to include this line here because I think it's important to note. If we have a vaccinated staff member, they may, at times, for instructional purposes, remove their mask when they're able to be socially distanced. So if we have a vaccinated staff member who is distanced from students, there may become an instructional reason occasionally where that staff member may take off their mask at times. But our general rule as we head into Wednesday for all preschool through 6th grade students is that we are going to move to required masks at school while indoors. Our next bullet here is that per ODH and Hamilton County Public Health, we are going to continue to strongly recommend for 7th and 12th grade students and staff while indoors that they wear masks. Students in these grades do have the availability of a vaccination, and it is still strongly recommended that masks be worn to stay safe, to avoid quarantines, and to support keeping athletics and extracurriculars possible. If a student is vaccinated or wearing a mask, they will reduce the possibility of quarantine. When you think back to that graph that showed the number of quarantines we faced last year, we now have within our control the ability to reduce that number through mask wearing and through vaccination. And we hope that together as a group, we can keep those quarantine numbers low this year. One other item that's important for us to note, this is across all grade levels. Per CDC this year, facial coverings, masks are required for anyone riding a school bus or a school van. Mitigation strategies we're going to continue this year: frequent hand washing, cleaning of classrooms, common areas, high touch areas, and buses. We're going to maintain classroom setups to maximize distance as much as possible. We're going to maintain those homeroom cohorts for lunch and for recess at the elementary school. And this is another really important thing as we head back. I know that it feels like we're still in summer mode, and the health and safety checks might not be quite as important. But as we get closer to the school year and as we get back to the school year, it's extremely important that we get back in the habit of doing the wellness checks. And when in doubt, stay home. The positivity rate would show that it's time to be cautious again, to watch those symptoms, and to stay home if you have any questions about health status. And once again, we of course will be required to go through the contact tracing with Hamilton County Public Health for those that are unvaccinated and unmasked, whether in a classroom or in a lunch setting. We wanted to review Hamilton County quarantine requirements this year. For those of you that were not at the board meeting, this is an update and a change from what was released last Thursday. So it's extremely important that you tune in on this slide for the change that we received. So we released our quarantine guidance on Thursday to our community after receiving our Hamilton County Public Health guidance on Wednesday. As with all things, we get changes and updates as we go. So Thursday evening, we received an update from ODH. And then on Friday morning, we were able to conference call with Hamilton County Public Health to update our guidance to reflect the new changes from ODH. So the language on this slide is different than what was sent out last Thursday, but it is in accordance with the most updated guidance we've received from both ODH and Hamilton County Public Health. So here we go, one bullet at a time. Unvaccinated students who are not wearing a facial covering that are considered close contacts to a positive case will be required by Hamilton County Public Health to quarantine. Unvaccinated students who are wearing a facial covering that are considered close contacts to a positive case in a classroom setting will not be required by Hamilton County Public Health to quarantine. In the last guidance we sent out, we said both the positive case and the close contact had to be masked in order to avoid quarantine. The new guidance from ODH is if the close contact is masked, they do not have to quarantine regardless if the positive case was masked or unmasked. So this is an update, it is a change. We want to make sure that everyone's aware of that change. And again, we apologize for sending something out and then having to change it, but unfortunately this is the nature of the school year, again, being flexible and responsive to the most updated guidance we get. The next bullet on here is that vaccinated students and staff who are considered close contacts will not be required by Hamilton County Public Health to quarantine. They will be asked to mask and to monitor symptoms after exposure, regardless of vaccination status. One other clarifying point, we had some questions this year. If my student is vaccinated and they're a close contact, are you going to let me know that they were a close contact? Absolutely. So regardless of vaccination status, if a student is a close contact, we're going to call home. And when we call home, we'll explain the situation and that your student is a close contact. At that time, if your student is vaccinated, we would ask for you to provide that proof of vaccination status. And upon receiving of that status, your student wouldn't have to quarantine. Again, they would be encouraged to mask and monitor symptoms after exposure, but they would be able to remain at school during that time. The guidance, of course, may change again, but this represents our most recent and updated guidance that we have available to us. This flow chart was released on that Thursday evening from ODH. Basically, if you like a graphic representation rather than the bullet points, this is another way to look at it. We'll provide this for you so you can review, but essentially it walks you through a series of questions to determine if a student would in fact be quarantined or not. A little bit about vaccinations this year. So COVID vaccination sites and information will be shared as requested by Hamilton County Public Health. I do think a change from last year to this year. Vaccinations are readily available at many, many local places. So I think, the need to host vaccination sites or to seek out vaccination centers this year is definitely diminished with the availability of vaccinations. That may change, obviously, throughout the year, but that's where we currently stand. We'll continue to provide any information as requested from Hamilton County Public Health. We do strongly encourage every family with questions to reach out to their primary care physician and thoughtfully consider vaccination. Hamilton County Public Health, ODH, and CDC are all strongly recommending vaccination. Vaccination is a way for us to avoid quarantine. So students and staff will not be required to receive a COVID-19 vaccination. Students and staff will not be required to report their vaccination status. But voluntary reporting of vaccination status will be used during contact tracing to determine if quarantining by Hamilton County Public Health is required. I do think it's important to note we've received questions about staff and vaccination status. We're not legally able to disclose a vaccination status of a teacher. I hope everyone understands that's a medical record that we're not going to or able to disclose. But broadly speaking, we had about 90% of our staff members show up at our early vaccination clinic that we had with Kroger back last year when that vaccination was made available to us. So I do think it's important to note, while no, we're not able to disclose specific vaccination status of individual staff members, on the whole, and this was last year, we were already up close to 90%. So I think it's important for all to know. As you can imagine, the start to the school year is a busy time for us, and we receive lots of emails and lots of questions on a normal year. This year, obviously, the volume has increased, understandably so. It's really important that you reach out to the most direct contact as possible. While, of course, Kenji and myself can field questions, if you have specific questions about the elementary, the middle, or the high school, we encourage you to reach out to that building administration. If you have an athletics question, Joe Kimling or your child's coach would be a great place to start. From the Student Services Department, Jessica Hunter will be your primary contact. We pride ourselves in a small district in communicating often and quickly and being responsive to our families, but we do ask for a little bit of grace during this time just because of the volume that we're seeing and we're trying to work our way through. We may not be quite as responsive as we normally are. So we appreciate your grace in that, but again, reach out with questions. Finally, we just wanted to end our time on these slides, reiterating again the importance of the My Madeira Promise. We'll be working through this again this year. Our kids deserve the best possible year that we can give them. And we know as adults, we might not always agree. We might have differences of opinions, but when it comes down to our kids in this school year, we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure we're creating the best possible environment for them to stay in school, to be in school, and have a safe, healthy, welcoming environment for all of our kids this year. We know we're going to make the best of our situation. We're going to make a great year for our kids. Thank you for your time. Reach out for questions.